How's it? Part 5 of the kingkat build, where we are in Biz's garage and we are keeping it simple stupid. So last time when we left you, we had done some work on the front end and we sort of showed you a bit about that. So what we've managed to do is we have had the piece that we had before. Now I've welded a bolt into this piece here so that I don't have to worry about what's coming out underneath there, and it makes it easier to fit and remove. If we have a look down here, we can see that I've now made this bar here through to the front. This piece here quite easily just fits onto the steering arm, which goes through here. Now somewhere here there's a hole. Line that up with there, put it through the hole. This is obviously not the right size bolt as yet, but it sort of shows you what we're trying to achieve. So that then goes onto there. This bar here then goes up onto there. And we end up with, obviously that bolt's too long, so we'll shorten that up. But just as a way to look at it, you can see that the front end now is pretty much sitting where it needs to sit. It will move fairly well, nice and simple, kept right up out the way. Yeah, and I think it's pretty effective. The other good thing with this is obviously if you hit something, you're going to bend these arms rather than break something, and then you can just straighten them up and keep racing for the day. If you did break one of these arms, it'd be a good idea to have a spare one around. You can just replace it with a spare one. So we may make up some spare ones just as one of those things to keep you going for the day. So once we'd done this, we were happy with that was all sitting. The next thing was to look at where we were going to put the T-drive. Because we need to try and drop down the seat if we can. Now, I noticed that these kingkats have this mounting piece here, which I gather was where the peerless gearbox bolted on and went through to the drive system. So this is a great hunk of steel, which we didn't really need, so I basically cut it out. And I'm actually going to use this to help mount the T-drive in the back. So once we look down the back here, what I did was I got myself a piece of wood and I drilled a hole in it so that the T-drive could slide through. And that would give me a way to sort of work out where the height was. Now I knew from once I'd put the pulleys on, I knew the height that this piece here had to sit on the edge of that. So what it enabled me to do is I put that on there, stuck that on there like that, clamped it on, and it enabled me to see what sort of height I needed to have and how low I could go with the seat, because obviously I wanted to try and drop the seat down. When I race mowers, I sit on them and move my weight. But this one we're making so that you can sit in it, a bit like a go-kart type idea, sit down in it and drive it with a foot throttle and things like that. So that's fine, we'll work with that. So once I worked out the height of that, then I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll rock this back down. So hopefully we can tip this way without making too much of a mess. Okay, so then I just grabbed a couple of blocks of wood to sit it on. Now I wasn't worried too much about the levelling or how it worked this time. What I did was I measured with a tape measure up to the bottom of the T-drive to work out how low I could go. Now the other thing to be wary of on this particular build is it's got this cover here. This cover sits in here, and what I thought I'd do is I'd drop the seat down to the level of that cover. So I measured that distance. These two bars here, one used to be attached here and one used to be attached here. I cut them off. I cut the edges off so they sat down lower. And I'm now going to use this to mount the seat. So to work out the seat height, I grabbed the seat, and you might need a bit of a recover or whatever. We looked at where the mounting points were and set it up so that the seat will effectively sit somewhere like this. And we'll bolt it straight up through there. Now obviously we've got to work out where the wheels, the guards are going to go for that sort of stuff, but we'll worry about that later. That then gave me the height of where the seat was going to be, and I've also moved it back so that we've managed to gain a little bit of length in it, because I'm a long person and the owner of this is about my sort of height too, so we wanted to make it a bit longer. So then what I did was grab my steering wheel and effectively sat on the lawnmower and went, right, this is where I'm going to sit, where do I want my feet? So by sitting in here and looking where my feet sort of felt comfortable, I worked out approximately where the steering wheel needs to be. So it worked out to be somewhere around about here, had about this height so that my arms weren't touching on my legs, and I had enough room to turn without too much of a drama. So steering wheel sort of sits about there, so I've got to make a boss for that to where it's going to sit. That enabled me then to put the bearing in through here. So I've bolted a bearing in through the original hole. So around on this side here, you can see that we've got the bearing mounted in there. So we've got the bearing bolted up through here, the other bearing bolted onto here with an adapter, and the shaft coming up through here. all we have to do now is make this fit into here. Now unfortunately I'm going to need a lathe to do that part, and I don't have a lathe at home, so I've got to wait till I can get back to work so I can machine that out, put it in there and weld it. And then what I'll probably do with this thing, because I can't make the splines, what I'll probably do is just machine it down a little bit so it just fits in there, and then I'll weld a little long piece on it so the long piece sits in here so the shaft can't turn, and then I'll put a bolt through here because obviously I can't make the splines as big as that. So that's going to end up sitting on here and here, and hopefully this won't need an extra bearing on here to hold it. We'll see how that goes. And then we're going to end up with a nice easy steering, which is going to work. So we've got all those positions sorted. Like I said, we're going to have a bit of a play around with the rear guards, because where the rear guards are now, we're going to foul all the wheels and that, but we'll cut that away to find out how that works. So if we come over to the bench over here, that piece of steel that we took out, this big hunk of steel, actually fits perfectly inside here, so that we can use that to mount our T-drive on. So what I'm going to effectively do is grab just a piece of steel. I'm going to weld that onto the bottom like that, so that's going to sit up underneath the chassis. I'll show you that just so you're not sure. So it's going to fit underneath here, and we're going to bolt that on there, so that's going to sit that perfectly where we want it. Once that's on there like that, we've got the T-drive. That's going to sit on there to hold it flush, and then we're going to bolt 4 bolts through there, and then we're going to weld the top of that onto the seat brace that we've got there. So all going well, that will get the T-drive in the right place, and then we can have a look at the next part. Alright, so what we've done is we've managed to get the T-drive with that plate that we looked at before. We put this 1 bar across here, and then we sit this here where we needed it. We then tack welded that on, put 1 10mm bolt through one of these here just to hold it all flat. And then I marked where I've got to drill the hole, so there's 4 bolts now bolted through. These are not the final bolts, but they'll bolt them right through there. We've then added a little bit of steel into here, and we've welded it to that support that was there. So this is now in where it needs to go. It's sitting square and it's flat. I tested that by putting the level on top of here, this way and that way, and then we made sure that it was pretty good. So then I got the chain and sort of laid it on epoxy where we needed to go. I needed to cut a bit more out of here so that the chain would fit through nicely, and then I've started making this part here, which is for the adjuster. So there's not a lot of load on the adjuster, and the adjuster has to be on the right side of the chain because there's a tension side and a loose side. So obviously this is upside down at the moment, so the top side is the tension side and the bottom side is the loose side. So we need the tensioner to go into this side. So what we're using for a tensioner is just one of these little tensioners here. So I've just put it onto a bolt, tightened up that so it spins quite nicely, and then this here will slide into the adjuster, and we can just adjust that up and down as the chain wears. What we do need to do now is obviously get the chain to the right size. So bearing in mind that the chain is going to be tight on the bottom and loose on the top, we want to see effectively how tight we can get it and it fits in the sprocket. So this is going to fit there, and I've put it right around here, and you can see we now have to put a joining link in. Now quite lucky with this one, the joining link is going to be here. So what I'm going to have to do is mark this particular one, alright, and I need to cut the chain there. So once I've cut it, then this joiner link here will be able to go into there and join the chain up. So there's several ways to do your chain cutting. Some people use chain breakers and things. What I tend to do is I just mark where it's got to be. I get my angle grinder, a punch and a hammer, and then we'll come over to the vise over here. I put it into the vise, and tighten up the vise. That's a bit like wrestling with a snake to get it in here. Once we're in there, we're pretty good. Put the old glasses on, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to grind off these little pieces here. Once I've ground those off, the whole pin will fall out and I'll be able to put the link in. So I'll just do that here now. And then once you've done that, generally one quick tap with the old punch. And then it comes out. So now, I can't remember which side was the side that we used. I think it's this one. So we'll soon find out. So if it's not this one, I'll have to pick the other one up off the floor. So then we can just bring the chain back around, put it over the top of here. Put that onto there, put that onto there. No, it's not that one, it's the other one. Okay, hold that thought. So, because that one was way too short. So that's on there, and then that comes to there. Lovely jubbly. Now I've got the link here, so you need a pair of pliers for the link, and you pop this off the link. Should come off. Right, there we go, so that's popped off the link. Now the link needs to go a particular direction, so when you put this in here, the link itself needs to point in the direction of the travel of the chain. So because we've got this onto here, so what we're going to need to do is, I've made this difficult for myself by doing that there, so what I'll do is I'll just feed this through here first. Okay, that's going to hold it together, and then I'm going to rock it around to here, and then I'm going to get the other piece, put it onto the side of here, and then we need to look at which direction it's going to go. Now because it's upside down, we know that we're going to pull the chain tight this way, so the chain's going to travel this direction, so this piece needs to face down. So we're going to put this onto here, slide it onto there, get it up to the right place, and then all going well, we should be able to just click it into place like that. So now the chain's on, we can now temporarily fit the tensioner. So I've got this tensioner here, slide that into here, and I'll just give you sort of an indication of what it's going to end up doing. Hoping I've got the right size spanners here somewhere. 15, yep. So I'll just give this a bit of a tighten up so you can just have a look and see where it sits. Now obviously this bolt is too long at the moment. This is just purely to show you how the whole thing's going to work out. Now we haven't actually fixed the sprockets exactly where they're going to go yet. Once we have it all sorted, we can put the keyways in and tighten them up. Nearly there. Like I said, the bolts are way too long, but you get the general idea. And then we can just put that down, tighten that up, and probably do a bit more tightening, but yeah, you can see that that's effectively going to give us the tension that we need on here. We'll get out a little bit more, but you see the idea. So the tension is now in, the T-drive's in, we're all pretty good there. That's going to work out nicely. Might be a bit more adjustments we have to do. Obviously it needs to be a little bit tighter, but it's going to basically work. The next thing we need to do is we're going to work out what size these pulleys are going to be. So we're going to work out the ratio that we want to run for the engine to the driveline. At the moment we've got a 1.9 here, and I think it's a 2.1 or something here. So we've got to work out what size pulleys we're going to have in here. We won't need quite so big pulleys because we've got quite a big ratio in here. We do need to have a fairly good sized pulley here to get a decent area of belt to attach it. So probably that sort of size is what we'll go to, which is about sort of 90, 100 mil. And then the one at the back we'll probably use something very slightly bigger, something like that. Might go onto the back of here. And then we can work out how the clutch is going to work. So the next problem we have is the clutch. So we've got the clutch here. Now what I have to do is work out where the belt's going to run. So I know where to put the clutch and then get it in the correct place, and obviously be aware it's not going to foul up on anything. And then I can measure the belt like I've done before with a bit of string, We'll go to our local Garden Forest Marine and get a belt from them guys, and that'll fit in there, and then we can go that further. So that's sort of about it for Barriz's garage today. The T-driver's in, the tension is on, the chain is in, all just tack welded in, and the next thing will basically be sorting out the clutch, and who knows, I might have got back to work by then and I can finish off the steering. But until next time, Barriz's garage.